because I have I want to kind of go back to my question about the sort of trigger warning content, and I have littles who are right by me, so I'm going to try and use some,
Euphemisms.
Right. But so in my story, my story is about a romance between an American and an illegal immigrant,
Mm-hmm.
and part of the story in flashbacks and in some nightmares that he has, that the male main character has, is him reconciling that he witnessed his mother be taken advantage of in order to get documents to come to this country. And I'm
Yeah.
struggling with, that's a subplot, and it explains some of his behavior, and how he interacts with the female main character and some other things that happen. But I struggle with whether I should go there or not, because it is triggering to a lot of people.
There is degrees of going there, though. If he, as a child, witnessed this, and you're doing a flashback of him witnessing one of those incidences, that's going to hit the trigger much more than a line that says he remembers his mother doing things that his mother tells him he's not supposed to do to other girls. You know what I'm saying, where there's a reference to it, and there's a dealing with it, and then there's putting it on the page for the reader to viscerally experience it at the same time. So the nuance and the question would come in only if it's on the page.
Okay, and that's I have to reconcile that, because you never fully see it. You just sort of see like bits and pieces of him. Like he saw certain things that in hindsight he knows what that means, but as a child he didn't quite understand what that meant.
And you might even do something similar. And this might be one of those things that, like, the publisher's editor might say, you can't go into the bedroom with him, but can we have the door close in his face with him knowing that mom's on the other side? So that would be a conversation that you would be having with that publisher's editor about, again, where is their line and what serves the story.
Yeah, and that's where I'm really struggling, because I don't want it to be triggering, but I also, because I'm in that sort of genre bending where I want to be both romance and lit fic, and I want to really deal with some of these issues about immigration and what it takes for a lot of people to actually come here. And this is something that is common, sadly, very common for people who come here. So I want to, I think it's intellectually honest, but on the same token, I want to make sure that it's not, it has to be respectful as well.
Right. That line between gratuitous and necessary to the story. So it would be the same, because it's not, it's a childhood memory of the main character. Already we know at most it's going to be a flashback. And then all you have to do is decide what is the emotionally necessary takeaway from this childhood memory. If it is remembering being separated from his mother, if it is remembering a particular behavior that he now knows to be wrong, and he's judging someone in his current environment through this lens, then you might have to get specific about it. But you also might just need to, you might just be able to get, he remembers his mother's scared eyes as the door was slammed in his face, and he went and hid under his pillow listening to his mother scream.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Through the wall.
Yeah.
So again, you need to, because the emotional takeaway is what forms him as an adult.
Yeah.
And so
that was kind of okay.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I was going. Like he hears he hears part of the conversation that she's having with the man, and then they go behind a closed door, and
the actual act is hidden from him.
Right. And he can't see it, but then there are, pieces get filled in, that
as he grows up and becomes more aware of those kinds of behaviors between adults. And so he gets to fill in the blanks, just like, I mean, we all know that we got here because our parents were intimate, but the actual knowledge of that, is, you can picture it in your head when you're 21, or you could picture it because you knocked on their door and burst in on Sunday morning. There are two, possibilities kind of thing. And, and as I'm sure is where you're going with it, is also because that exposure, that witness of it, or in whatever regard, whatever situation, shapes our own attitudes towards that act and towards the interactions between men and women. And
I would add to the flashback. I would specifically make it how do I say that? I would specifically talk more about how she is after, how how his mother is after, more than what she's, because a kid won't remember what will struck more the kids is the attitude of the adult afterwards, more than whatever, because the kid won't be able to imagine what's happening behind the doors. He might try to, but that will not be something that they will remember, because of their capacity, their childhood capacity of not imagining something that they never saw. Oh, hello back.
All right. So Sasha's going to kick herself.
Yeah.
Back. But and I'll address, because I have this thought, because what that is that's the same thing as a child looks up to the parent when they fall down. How the parent reacts to the fall teaches the child how to react to similar situations later.
Yes.
So the very first time a child falls, if all you do is lean over and say, "Oh, you bang your knee? Let's take care of that." You handle it calmly. You should, that's the child who grows up and says, "Mom, I fell down on the playground," coming in calmly, bleeding down their leg. But the child who falls down, screams bloody murder, had a parent who overreacted when they fell down.
Yes.
So your whole cue about looking to the parent for how to handle or how to respond to the situation. So they're going to look to the parent. And if the mother comes out having changed clothes, and that might be obvious, but then sets about making dinner, the child is learning. This is just a normal part of life.
Yeah.
This is not going to disrupt life, sort of more to the point. Whereas if the mother stays in her room for the rest of the night, crying softly after the guy storms out, he's going to take in this idea that it's much more traumatic. It's much more disruptive than it might have been in any other way. So don't let me forget to mention that to Sasha when she comes.
Yeah.
I am recording this though, so maybe we can, I can pull those pieces and send them to her. because that's the crucial thing, is especially if you're working with a child character or a character who's dealing with something coming up from childhood.
Yes, exactly. Yes.
I have a scene